For anyone that doesn't have a clear picture of the apprenticeship process, what should they be looking at doing start to finish from your journey, maybe some obstacles you've gone through in that journey? And I know there's a lot there, but if you can summarize that journey for some of the people who might not know what to
Yeah.
expect.
So with the IBW route, if that's the route that you want to go, you're going to get your call from the list and they're going to say, hey, we have a class starting in 2 weeks. Let us know if you are going to be accepting this offer or not. Then you're going to be going through typically it's a 2-week boot camp process where it's kind of an extension of your interview. And in that, you're going to be learning some electrical theory. You're going to be learning some code. You're going to be climbing ladders and you're going to be doing some physically demanding stuff. It's kind of a way for them to weed out anybody that this isn't a good fit for. There's not that many people that don't make it through, but some people just can't show up on time or whatever the thing is. And so some people do get kicked out during boot camp, which is unfortunate. But once you finish that, then you get assigned to a job. And I know my experience is different than other people's, so I'm kind of just speaking to how things are here. So I basically got sent out to a job site, which was a prefab shop. The nice thing about that was since I didn't have any construction experience prior to getting in, there wasn't a whole lot that I knew. And so it was nice getting familiar with the tools and the different material. So I was just working in the shop, putting together things that would get sent out to job sites for about 6 months. Then the schooling portion of my apprenticeship started. The way that school works is here you go to school 1 day a week. That lasts for 3 months. And so that day you're making a sacrifice of missing out on work. So during school for 3 months at a time, you're only working 32 hours a week. The school is pretty much exactly what you would expect. You're sitting down in a classroom and you have an instructor that's giving a lecture and showing you some things and you have hands-on labs and all that. You learn a lot during your apprenticeship. And one of the things that I think I didn't expect going into this was just how overwhelming it all was going to be. I mean, I knew that eventually I would get things down, and today I'm feeling very confident about to become a journeyman and get my license and all that. But early on, it was very overwhelming. The thing is, you just got to realize that there's a reason why apprenticeships are 5 years. It's because there's so much to learn. And over the course of my apprenticeship, from learning things from people on the job site, different journeymen and foremen, and even people from other trades, and then also learning from instructors and other students in my classes, I slowly started gaining that confidence and that know-how. I just feel like I could finally have an apprentice of my own and start teaching them things. But the common thing that you will hear pretty much every single journeyman say after they turn out, or even years after turning out, is that they still don't know everything there is to know. You go through a 5-year apprenticeship and you learn so much, but it's like out of how much there is to know out there in the field, it's like you just know a little bit. You never stop learning. There's always things that you don't know.
I can't imagine even thinking that you would know everything, especially in the trades. There's always something new books, new tools, new regulations. There's always constant change. So what would you say was the most challenging part of your apprenticeship? If you had to pick one thing that just you look back at and you're like, man, I'm glad that's over, or I'm glad I made it through that.
I would say it would probably be going from being the guy that knows everything. Like at AT&T, I would have other store managers call me up and be like, hey, Steven, what do I do here? I have this situation. Going from that to being the guy that knew absolutely nothing. It was really humbling. And I remember having conversations with my journeyman at the time and I was like, hey, I'm doing my best. This is really hard for me. I just went from knowing everything to knowing nothing, or feeling like I knew everything at least. Just kind of getting over that. Really the only, I guess, remedy for that, for lack of better words, was time. Getting up every day and going to work, even if I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, because every day you learn a little bit more and gain a little bit more confidence. I think that's probably the most difficult thing for me.
That's interesting. I didn't see that coming. That's cool. That makes a lot of sense. I'm sure there's a lot of humility you have to have coming from a management role to like essentially at the bottom or even lower because you don't even know anything at all.
I couldn't even tell you what the difference between a drill and an impact was. My journeyman told me, hey, go grab the drill, and I'd bring him an impact and he's like, no, I need the drill. I'm like, this is a drill.
How do those situations go? Do journeymen just get frustrated, or what's that experience like at the beginning? Is there a lot of friction, and how do you get through that friction with your superior, who's also technically like your mentor?
I was really fortunate. I can say with complete honesty that every single journeyman that I've had, I've learned something from, and they have been excellent teachers. That's not always the case. I especially know that from having some sort of presence on social media and seeing comments from people. People comment on my videos sometimes and they say, I want to learn, I want to know what I'm doing, but my journeyman, he or she doesn't want to teach me anything because they don't want me to eventually take their job. So there's different mentalities from different people in the field, but what I will say is most journeymen overall will be good teachers and they will want you to learn because you're their help. So if you don't know what you're you're doing, then you're not going to be a very good help to them.
What would be your number one tip for someone who's starting their apprenticeship in terms of how to be the best apprentice they can be, so that they can go in and their journeyman kind of respects them, knows that they're there to learn and work hard? What are 3 tips that someone that's brand new, maybe first week, that kind of new, should be thinking about doing or changing?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of things. Piggybacking on what I said before, I think you just have to go into it with the right attitude. I think that's probably the most important thing. Go into it being teachable and knowing that you're going to make mistakes and knowing that you're not going to understand everything right away. So having the right attitude. One thing that a lot of journeymen really appreciate is an apprentice that is kind of thinking ahead. They see their journeyman installing a light and they're going to need a certain tool. And so that apprentice, not just kind of standing around watching, but thinking ahead a few steps, anticipating the direction that the journeyman's going to go. And that's going to come with time. Another thing would just be to write things down, because there's so much overwhelming information and you're going to forget things. Your journeyman's going to ask you to go grab this and this and this and this and this. And if you can write things down, you're going to get it all. There's something that you learned that you don't want to forget. Write things down throughout the day and review that when you get home. Those are a few things that come to mind. I wouldn't say that those are the most important, but be teachable. And when you go home, keep researching, watch videos, read books. There's no reason why the learning has to stop when you leave school or when you leave work. And that's going to just make you a much more well-rounded electrician, and it's going to make you more desirable, which in turn will make you more money in the long run.